I'm Inwood Lane. I'm known as the Gig Geezer. I can help you maximize your gig hustle. I also need your help. Hey, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Spread my content with others. And I welcome your comments in the section below. And with that, let's get into this segment of the Gig Geezer. I've got some time with this specific delivery that I am completing. And so the thought that came to me while I was in the every now and then I get one of those brainstorms, and today is no different. The brainstorm is posing the question, which method of multi-apping is better? The two methods are when you stack orders, multiple orders across multiple apps, or just working multiple apps singularly. Now, what is working multiple apps singularly? It is pretty much what it is. You turn on all your apps and you accept one order at a time. You accept an order and then you complete that order, and then you look for another order from the other apps. The stacking of apps, as what I call it, is when you, the analogy is when you're working DoorDash, GrubHub, UberEats, BiteSquad, or for that matter, as in the past with Roadie, but also with BiteSquad, sometimes you get multiple orders to deliver. With Instacart, you may get as many as 3 batches to deliver. To UberEats, BiteSquad, GrubHub, and DoorDash, you're only going to get 2. Every now and then you may get a third one, but what happens is that you get 2 and then you'll get another one just like that. And so you can technically call that a triple stack. And so bottom line is that you've got 2 orders to pick up and deliver. Well, in the stacking of orders across multiple apps, you have accepted orders from multiple apps, and you endeavor to deliver them in a timely manner. That's simple. The question is, which one do you think? The question is, which one you think is better? Personally, my preference is to stack across multiple apps, because that is the one where you're going to, in most cases, make the most money. Now, admittedly, I have stacked across multiple apps. I have stacked orders across 4 apps at one time, delivering to 5 different customers. I have double stacked orders across 2 apps. In other words, I've had double stacked UberEats, or a double stacked GrubHub, or a double stacked DoorDash, or even a double stacked BiteSquad, some combination of the above, and have completed all the deliveries. Now, the biggest risk when you stack orders across multiple apps is the risk of running into a contract violation, or ultimately the risk of having your account temporarily suspended, or even worse, deactivated. Now, in my early days of doing that, which would have been around between March and July of 2020, the Gig Geezer was deactivated from both GrubHub and UberEats for that very reason, running the risk of completing too many orders too late, or as what they claim was fraudulent activity, in that I was stalling on orders. Now, I managed at some point to be obviously reactivated with UberEats, and I survived deactivation from GrubHub. In fact, I was reinstated a week later. It took me about 6 months to be gain activation with UberEats once again. So it is risky, but the reward is that you really you have a greater potential of making more money. Now, I have been a big advocate, as I have said in many installments of the Gig Geezer, that working multiple apps is the way to go. You're going to find that in these slower times, working multiple apps is going to be the way that you maintain a certain level of income that you may have gotten used to from the years of 2020 through 2021. Now, I'm going to digress real quickly. I mentioned this briefly in my last Gig Geezer segment. I believe that what's happening is that the slowdown we've seen is that we are seeing a return to the way gig delivery apps were prior to the pandemic. So we're talking 2019. Now, of course, in 2019, there weren't as many people out here on these apps. And I believe because of the hypersaturation of drivers out there, and with the downturn in customer orders, it's really creating a dry situation in a lot of markets. And so really the person who navigates through this is going to be someone who really works these apps and maximize as many opportunities as possible. That's a $10 word way of saying you just got to be smart. Now, working multiple apps in the singular sense, working multiple apps singularly is the safest way to go. The reason is that you're not going to run the risk of deactivation. But I believe that the way that working single apps singularly will work is that you've got to have the volume of activity by customers. You got to have that volume of activity, because if your app is popping, if your apps are popping, then yes, you can drop one off and look for the other one. There's no lag in the order opportunities. But as the way things are now, I mean, you may go 5, 10, 15, 20, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour without seeing any orders coming your way. That's because of the conditions of what I've described already. So, but again, working the mobile app singularly is the safest way to go, because you do not run the risk of deactivation. The problem with that, though, is what if you choose to do that and you're committed to that order and it takes a long time. You go to a Buffalo Wild Wings, for example, where they're notoriously slow and inept. You may be there 35, 40 minutes. Is that maximizing your money? I don't think so. Now, just today, February 1st, 2022, I just employed something like what I've just shared. I completed a stacked UberEats order, and then I accepted a BiteSquad order. And when I got there, I hadn't even touched the order yet. I was 10 deep. Now, I'm 10 deep during lunch rush. That's 10, 15 minutes. Well, here's what happened. I got a stacked DoorDash order, stacked pickup orders from a pet store. And so here I am now delivering the second of the two orders. You just saw in an inset, me dropping off 40 pounds of kitty litter. That was the first drop off. And so now we're going out here to parts unknown in the greater Columbia metropolitan market to drop off these other pet items, and then hopefully get back into the flow of hopefully some orders coming my way. But that's an example of really working a multiple app. May not have been stacking it because I did not keep the BiteSquad order, but I used the multiple apping to my advantage. In fact, the BiteSquad order was for $10.17. I ain't know where it was going. That's the other thing. That's the unknown currently with BiteSquad. But there's going to be changes very soon with BiteSquad in that, by the way. And in fact, I'm going to do probably a larger Gig Geezer short on this. But BiteSquad has sent out the email that we will be transitioning to the Waiter app, and we will be able to see the restaurant location and the customer address, or at least geographically where the customer's drop-off location is, and that's going to be a big help. That's going to be a big help. Now, is that going to change other things? That's not for this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. But that order paid $10.17. The stacked DoorDash paid $18.25. Given how the way things are right now, I jumped on the DoorDash and requested that I be unassigned from the BiteSquad order. Now, if I may digress a little further with this. Now, working multiple apps has been something I've done going all the way back to my days as a rideshare driver. Even when I started in September 2016, I had just Uber. And so all I knew was Uber, and I did what I did with Uber. Then in January 2017, Lyft was introduced to the entire South Carolina market. And so early on, I toggled between both apps, and I juggled rides between both apps. As most of y'all know, on Lyft is very hard on drivers when it comes to canceling out on rides. And you run the risk of deactivation if within a certain stretch your unassigned / canceled rides reach 15%. Kind of like Instacart. You run the risk of deactivation with Instacart if you cancel out of 15 or more of your orders that you've accepted. Now, GrubHub will do that as well. GrubHub will deactivate you if you cancel out of too many orders after you've accepted it. They claim that's fraudulent activity as well. That is another deactivation or account suspension that I survived as well. DoorDash gets you from the completed delivery percentage, and that when you accept the order and then you decide to back out, that counts against your completion percentage. And DoorDash requires you to maintain at least 80% completed deliveries. That is the one requirement that you must have. You can have a 0% acceptance rate, which I have of no shame bragging of, but the completion percentage must be 80% or more. So that is another risk. That is another potential risk when you do work multiple apps. It doesn't matter which method you go, but the bottom line is maximizing your money. You are your own business person. You are an independent contractor. You are free to do that. All of the apps, terms of agreements say that. The question is, how do you work it to your advantage? And in these slower times, you must be smart in what you do. And with that, this is another segment of the Gig Geezer. I'm in Wood Lane, and as always, may your hustle continue. Thank you for checking out this segment of the Gig Geezer. If you reach this point, it means that you've checked it out in its entirety, and it's very much appreciated, and it tells YouTube that you're very much engaged in my content. Hey, if you'd like to get in contact with me or pass on some other useful information, I can be reached at giggeezer3.5@gmail.com, or you can check me out on Twitter at giggeezer.